Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Spiritual Psychics TV. Welcome to Being Spiritual. I'm your host, Ashley Robinson. I'm thrilled to be here this evening with my friend Birgitta. Good evening, Birgitta.
Hi, Ash. How are you? It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's lovely to have you back on the show tonight. And thank you very much to Richard and SPTV for the opportunity to bring us together. That's what it says on the side of the tin, bringing like-minded people together, bringing spiritual people together. And tonight I've brought Birgitta. Birgitta used to host a show on SPTV back in, well, we were just talking a little bit about timeline, but what was the name of your show when you first was on SPTV?
As, I'm thinking
Origins
ancients.
of the Ancients.
That's it. Thank you, Richard.
And something that's absolutely fascinating to me, and I was a guest on your show one time, and over the years we've had the opportunity to talk on the show about things that make us both spiritual. You and I have worked together at Wimbledon Spiritualist Church. You've done one of my first ever interviews, actually, which is still on YouTube.
Still on YouTube.
Yeah, and you're also a very talented webmaster. Is there any gender attached to webmaster? Can you be a web mistress? Does that sort of conjure the thoughts of all sorts of different websites? Yeah.
Sounds a little dodgy, right?
Yeah, talented coder when it comes to websites, helped us with the church. And actually, there's only one other person that's ever helped us at the church, and that is indeed our producer. And Richard produced the first ever Wimbledon Spiritualist Church website. So we feel very privileged to have had people helping the church and its mission. And tonight, folks, this is a spiritualist philosophy show, so it's live and it's interactive. We want you to engage with us. The theme of tonight will be revealed in a little while, but you can ask us absolutely anything. You can either come to us and as a panel we'll answer the sort of question, or you can say, oh, that was really interesting, I'd like to ask you a question about something in particular. The theme is all about India, and I'm going to get Birgitta to talk to us a little bit about her role as an author and some of the stuff that she's been working on. But in between what we talk about, folks, you'll be able to talk to us about anything that you want to ask us in terms of spiritual, and you can get a question from both. So Laura's got the hint and she's moving us on, and she said good morning from Canada. So good morning to you, Laura. It's lovely to have you on the show. Kim joins us as well on YouTube, and the next one Birgitta is going to say hello to.
Sorry.
And we should try and get a few of your names. We can check you're interacting with us. It's always great to know where you're watching us from the world. I'm joining you from South London today, and Birgitta is on the European continent.
Yeah, I am in sunny Spain in the Costa Blanca, southern Costa Blanca.
Wonderful. Hi, Julie.
Hey, Sarah.
Tracy Honey-Jones, lovely to have you on the show this evening. Saying good evening to me and everybody.
Priest Digital Journal, welcome.
That sounds cool. There's like a food icon there as well. Yeah, I'm interested to check that out later. Jill Reynolds asking how we both are. Well, I'm doing very well, thank you, Jill. Thank you for asking.
Mary, it's been a while. Hope you're okay. Thank you for joining us.
Carly Oak, hiya.
Hey, Judith from Scotland.
You almost went a little bit Scottish there with your accent, Birgitta. Hi, Linda.
Hi, AJ Cook. I love that background image.
Julie Caswell, lovely to have you on the show this evening as well.
Hey, Maxine.
Serendipity.
Serendipity, yes.
Yeah, that was a mouthful for me. We just talked about my neurodiversity and dyslexia. Mishi Castle, good evening to you.
Hey, Ellie from Essex.
I think most of you got the hang of operating the hallows and letting us know where you're working from. So if we didn't specifically name check anybody, but the comments are now coming in. What the producer Richard will be able to do is to be able to put your questions to us. Now, what I would say tonight, folks, if you do ask a question, the assumption is you would also like a little reading, and you might get a little psychic reading from Birgitta or Ryan. Maybe I'll draw a card. Maybe we'll be inspired to sort of give numbers or colours or something sort of psychic. Maybe there'll even be a bit of spiritualist mediumship. If you would not like a reading, when you ask a question, because we will choose some of the questions to come on the show, then just say that you don't want a reading. And that will be the way that we'll sort of get on for about the next hour or so. So all about India was the way I said the theme. And Brigitte, I consider you a wonderful ambassador for our sort of faith and belief system. You do some great work, both with videography and your graphics. You have a social media presence as well. Just remind the people back at home where they can find you on the socials.
They can find me on Instagram under Universal Light Warriors, on YouTube under Power Soul Healing, on Facebook under my own name, but I also have a website called powersoulhealing.com.
And as well as finding you online and the socials, they can also find you in all good bookshops. So if we go backwards, what's the name of your most recent book?
You mean from forward to backwards, whatever. Yes. So the one that's coming out, which is I've submitted it now to the publishing house, is called Child of the Sun: En Route to Enlightenment in India, which should be coming out early November. There's another collaboration book coming out on the 4th of October with another 88 authors, and that's called, the title is lost on me now, but it's it's all about transformation. Oh, it's called I'm So Glad You Left Me. So empowering stories, transformational stories about how each of these 88 authors have overcome something in their lives. And the one that's recently been published, that was back in May, is called Become Empowered. And that's also a collaboration with about 15 other authors. Again, transformative or transformational stories about each of us who's overcome something. And it's all about inspiring and empowering others. And then my first book, well, that's come out back in, August, September 2022. And that's Becoming Authentically Me. And that's really about the shifting consciousness and about the trauma that I've overcome. But I will say this, it's really funny going from my first book to the one that's coming out. It's like a world of difference. And as we were discussing just previously, how we change over the years and over the months, when we put in the work. It's for me, it's just been an incredible journey. And without all the crap that I've gone through, but I don't see experiences now as good or bad. I just see them as experiences, and it enables me to write about it and help other people overcome their own struggles.
And sort of, although the books are all quite different, there seem to be, if I've understood right, and obviously I've read a few bits and pieces, that there's a bit of a theme there, that this is often about you talking from experience.
Yeah.
And some of it involves how you have overcome things that I might describe as traumatic or even sort of toxic in the past, and about your progression onwards. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't mean
Go on.
that doesn't mean, Ash, that I do not go through through tough experiences, because I do. But I think the difference is, when we overcome something, we progress and we understand more about life. And it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going through something, but why is this happening for me? It's not, why is this happening to me? Why do people trigger me? And it's like, you just sit there with yourself, and it's like, rather than huffing and puffing like the big bad wolf, which we often do, yeah, we reflect and we take action.
Sort of learning opportunities along the
Yes,
way.
it's about, absolutely. It's really about being present in the moment and moving forward from that point. And it's accepting where we are, and then embracing the experiences, healing ourselves, hugging it out with ourselves, and even forgiving ourselves. And it's all about returning to that concept of loving ourselves, because we are loved at our divine essence.
Yeah, and I think that's that sort of important bit. It's about recognizing where you are. It's getting to a point where you are self-aware and you can sort
Yep.
of self-reflect. And then in situations that you can't control, you can perhaps control your reaction or what you
Yes.
do either in that situation or around. And when you were talking about things going through, think about that John Wayne sort of quote when he talks as the cowboy, you know, if you're going through hell, don't stop there, keep going through, you know,
Yeah.
get to the end. And actually life is for living, and the experiences we have here are often experiences that we can only have in our sort of vessel as our human sort of self, but actually what we choose to learn from it or how we treat that experience, I thought was
Yeah.
quite powerful. And the other thing I wanted to home in on was you spoke about forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
Now, we've spoken quite a lot of this show about trauma, and a couple of weeks ago we had Neil on the show, and we were talking about, you know, particularly sort of bad people, narcissists, sort of in our life, and having to forgive them. But you spoke
Yes.
about forgiving yourself and the
Yeah.
power you can potentially get from that. So tell us a little bit more about that.
That's very interesting. You touch on narcissism. I went through it recently, and it's one of these things. So it wasn't easy, but I understood the experience, and that was the difference. There's a big difference when we go through our life experiences and we are put, you know, we're put in the same ring, so to speak, same kind of experience, and it's like the universe will look at you and they're like, "What are you going to do now? Yeah, are you going to allow this to continue, or are you going to stop this?" And I will tell you one thing about this. It was a very, very elevated experience. I needed to call the cops here. And but it was a chapter that I needed to close off. And I did it. The door is shut. And sometimes, if we don't do that, we remain living with the what if. So I am so thankful for myself that I went through that experience, because I can now move forward with the rest of my life. And what was your other question?
No, let's focus on that. First of all, thank you for sharing, Brigitte.
Yeah,
It's appreciated, and the fact is that you're not stuck there.
no,
You're going forwards. And you know, one of my spiritual sort of principles is about a pathway of progression open to all of us. But like a game I was playing with my kids yesterday at the refurbished Battersea Power Station. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to be there, but there's a massive snakes and ladders board. And actually, you know, you roll a dice, which is a bit like the gamble of life, isn't it? You make a decision, but
yes,
actually you're on an onwards, forwards, rising trajectory, and it's a path of progression. And actually, every now and then you come across ladders, and it helps that accelerate, and you're awakening. But you can get all the way to what you think is that point of completion and hit a snake, and suddenly you're much further back than you would like to be. And even I was playing this with my three young boys yesterday, I kept thinking it is a little bit like life. For that path of
yes.
progression open to us all, no one said it was just going to be upwards rising slow trajectory, or if it was going to be hard work like climbing a mountain, or if you were going to find these slippery snakes along the way.
Yep, totally agree with you. That's why I
How
call
you
it
react to it, I think, was the point you're
yes.
making. What you do about it, whether or not you reflect. Do you go back and fall on the same snake, or do you actively try and avoid the snake? Do you overcome? Or do you adapt? Do you get off the board and play another game? It's about the decisions we make, and therefore there's an element of taking control in a situation that perhaps we haven't controlled what's happened to us. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And for me, I mean, for me, it lasted just under 3 weeks because I could not take it anymore. Oh, I couldn't. I couldn't live in my own home like this anymore. It was just so toxic. And, I had to make that cut. I had to do it. And it's really about listening to your own voice, your own soul. And what I mean by that is we often listen to other people and their opinions, but it's really about listening to our inner voice and doing what is right for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do appreciate you sharing. I'm just going to ask you a couple more questions, and then
Yeah.
from about 20 past, so folks, just another sort of 3 or 4 minutes, we're going to start taking some of your listeners' questions. So I was fascinated that this particular sort of chapter in your life, quite literal chapter in the book, was about sort of
Yeah.
that pathway, that element of progression, and around India. And a couple of times when I've been asked questions about sort of spirit guides, someone had said to me, Ash, why is it that so many spirit guides are from, Native American India, or from India, or from, ancient sort of China? And or ancient Egypt, and why is it we've not just got Dave the builder? And I was like, well, actually, I've got Bob the carpenter. So guides do come in different shapes and sizes, but I generally believe that there were civilizations and groups of people that either connected through a faith or belief system, or a religion or culture, were quite earthly people. Like, you think about the way the Native American Indians live their lives. I think they were quite connected to the planet and the things around them. And actually, it put them in a natural progression in that change we go through called death. Their personality perhaps found themselves in a place where they already had a working knowledge of how they could sort of continue to support. So it was just like my personal opinion about what they might be there. But a country that continues to sort of be associated for me with particular ways of life and understanding is India. It's a special place. It connects not just one faith, but several faith and sort of belief systems over the years. But how did your pathway lead you to India?
Oh, that's back in 2008 I went, and that was when I was working for Shell, and somebody there told me about the Art of Living Center in Bangalore, and that was all about breath work and meditation. And he gave a demo on Shell, and I was really fascinated. And so I decided, just on that, I just decided, you know what, this is right for me. I have to go. And I went for several weeks, and I really learned a lot about myself. And it was all about meditation and breathing, because what happens, when we breathe very, very shallow. And rather than breathing all the way to, all the way to our root chakra, so to speak, and then back up to the crown chakra, it's oxygenating our whole body. And that is really good, not just, I mean, yes, for the blood flow, but it's just, we need to start learning to breathe properly again.
And is that a physical element of learning how to breathe properly, or is
Oh,
there an
yeah, it
element of that,
is.
of connecting through the interfaces? The spiritual mind having to learn to breathe at the same time as the physical body.
Well, it's like how I was taught there, and that didn't come overnight, but it's like, you breathe in for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, and hold it for 4 counts. And then I did it after that, now I can do 8, and then hold it for 8, breathe out for 8, and then hold it for 8. And that really, when you start doing that, you will feel a lot better.
Yeah.
It's like when you want to reach that point zero, you can do it that way, but you can also count from 100 back to naught. Um, and you will reach that as well. But it's the breath work that's just really important. And I think we've forgotten that.
Yeah, I think that so many therapies, and I know that you're yourself a therapist, from sort of depression and anxiety, neurolinguistic programming, all of those have an element of like just finding that time to center yourself, to earth yourself, to breathe properly. I remember the first time I had a panic attack, the first time I had an asthma attack, there was this element of just coming back and centering myself and
Yeah.
learning to sort of slow down my breathing. And actually, you're right, it always feels better regardless of what has happened. I'm convinced the British mentality of, brew up and make a cup of tea, keep calm and sort of carry on was an element of like, you're going to have to stop and concentrate and make the tea. And you're learning to slow down, breathe properly, and, and brew that cup of tea. So yeah, really, really important stuff. And there'll be lots of themes of that throughout the chat. So first question that's come up is one from Kim. She asks, do you think guides and guardian angels are the same thing? So I'll let you come in, Brigitte, first for your sort of opinion on that. I'll give an opinion as well, and then Kim will draw a card for you, and then we'll take the next question.
Is that a trick question, Kim? Technically, we're all one, but your guides. So your guardian angel is with you throughout your lifetime. And there's a little exercise that I will give you, by the way, but your guides can change throughout your lifetime, depending on where you're at, and how you progress. But there's this neat little trick that I learned from an interview with Ella Ringrose. And it really, really works. It's where you just sit and you close your eyes and you take a couple of deep breaths and you think of your guardian angel, right? It doesn't matter whether you know what your guardian angel looks like, that is not important. But just think of a green cord, like an energetic cord that comes from your heart space, and link that to the heart space of your guardian angel. And just send that love to your guardian angel and ask for your guardian angel to send it back. And just keep doing that for about 5 minutes and do that every single day. And I will tell you, you will start to feel that love from them. It's so simple, but so profound. And I dare you to try it.
That's a great experiment. I think we could all have a go at trying. And yeah, don't disagree with anything you just said there, which is always nice. What I would say is I think that there's an element of us as human beings always wanting to label things, and
Yes.
there's very few teachings, from a spiritualist point of view, where guide teams have come through and said, you must call these people guardian angels, you must call these people guides, you must call these people helpers. I think there's that human condition to
Yep.
want to label things, and often we do that out of a simple thing. So if you break down the words, sort of, Kim, guardian angels, what does that suggest? A guardian. And actually they recognize there's some sort of angelic kingdom, dimension, realm. And actually the guardian angel was the angel that seems to be guarding me, protecting me. There's an element of protection there. Guides, we think about wayfinders and guides, directors, directing the line. But I think about, I love the way that Brigitte said that whatever's going on in our life, we associate that with different guides. And I think that it's the same in our human life, right? As we go through, nurseries and receptions and primary schools and high schools in the UK, and you get different teachers, and some teachers stay with you and they're sort of your principal tutor. Other people are there to help you about, particular subjects. You get your maths teacher or your language sort of teacher, and you have a language as developing your English language because you're an English speaker, or you might get a language teacher that's teaching you as a sort of second language. So all of these teachers can do different things at different times in our life, and I think that it's whatever you feel and sort of develop it. Within spiritualism, just at Wimbledon Church, you'll probably have a dozen different names for that team. You hear about our inspirers and our helpers and our friends and stuff. So yeah, thanks for asking that question, Kim. I'll draw a quick card for you as well, and Carol and Julie are going to try that, which is great. And Kim, I'm using my medieval deck today, and actually I just drew the skills card, which is quite cool. So there's Brigitte giving you some learning and development opportunities, and this card here, number 9, the skill set. You've got the crossbow, and you've got some arrows that are already in the ground. And for me, this card always talks about the sort of the opportunities to do things differently. So with the arrow, you've taken it on a step by putting it on a crossbow. Increased power. You can perhaps do it one-handed. Maybe the arrow is going to sort of go twice as far. So there's an element about taking the skill set you already have, developing that, enhancing that. In some way, shape, or form, making it go twice as long or twice as fast or twice the sort of impact. There's also an element of you being around to help with other people, recognizing the power that you have, the skill set that perhaps you rely on that's already there. The idea of those arrows, particularly the two in the grass, is thinking about the fact that the arrows have already perhaps been fired as opposed to sort of waiting. The skills which we are born with and that perhaps we acquire through education. And there we were talking about guides and educators. So I think it's quite symbolic that I drew that card. And often this talks about our talents, our expertise, our cleverness, the equipment that we might use at work and play. So yeah, think about all those tools and the equipment as well. Recognize that tension. Brigitte, anything you wanted to add for Kim?
Yeah. So it's fair that Kim, it's almost like I want to say there's like three well, it's called standing stones, a passage. It's almost like I want to say you're moving. I call that I call that transforlumination, which means you are transforming. You're going from one, it's almost saying one dimension into another, one passageway to another passageway, closing one door, opening up another. But to get to that, there are some things that you are experiencing currently that you really need to walk through. And it's like, like Pegasus rising, and it's transcending that and going beyond, and it's really opening yourself up more to spirit. It's a very interesting time for you in the next couple of months.
Lovely. Thank you, Brigitte. And thank you, Kim, for asking us that question. So keep your questions coming, folks. And the producer is going to try and select some potentially at random. Like Maxine's just come up. So Maxine says, when I had a major life events, birth and marriage, why have these things always been kiboshed by the universe? Partner developed epilepsy when I was 40 weeks pregnant, was due to get married the other week. Then our son had to have an emergency op. We couldn't get married. Well, Maxine, I am sorry that you've been challenged so much by these life events. You talk about being kiboshed by the universe, and I don't have a sort of honest answer that will bring you with any great comfort. In my own sort of personal opinion, which is limited by my capacity as a human being, is that we wouldn't choose any sort of difficult lives. And then I think to myself, well, maybe not the first time round, but actually, if we'd done it a couple of times, maybe we would make a choice to have a more difficult or challenging life, because we start to develop tolerance and resilience, and we think we can get through it and we can help others. So when you talk about destiny, there's always a chance that perhaps you've chosen that because you can deal with it, or the universe has presented you with it because that's the way that things are unfolding. I think it's also fair to say that you might not have had any choice in this. Sometimes things on planet Earth go wrong. There is an absolute sort of universal law that this planet has to abide by. In the spirit world, all they need to do is sync and things can happen immediately. But sometimes things, particularly around health, it can be affected by the conditions, and sometimes that isn't because of our own decisions and our own free will. It might be as a result of the way that people are living around us, the amount of radiation that's being sort of put out by them, the way that people are living their lives, or sort of poisons and toxins in the or just poor decisions that people make around us. And then there's this element of us having to react to it. But I think whatever has happened, I can always hear my friend Ralph Steadman whispering in my ear, well, that was meant to be, and it has happened now. And as a result, your reaction to it was that sort of test and challenge, and you were able to get through it, and you will sort of get through it. So yeah, I don't have, as I say, an answer which I think will bring you any comfort to it. But thank you for sharing with us, Maxine. I think that you've shown incredible bravery in order to do that. With your permission, we'll send you some love, some light, and some absent healing thoughts to continue with that, those, if you like, those reactions to that experience. Some love and light to your healing, to your son as well, if it's okay to send that. But keep on keeping on. Know what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. And in that pursuit of happiness while having this earthly experience, try and do as many things as you can. Set those intentions. Try and do those things with people you love. Do things that you love with those people that you love, and recognize that you're still here. Okay, you're still keeping on. And even if the universe wasn't in direct control of that, you were able to react to it. So yeah, keep on keeping on. But Maxine, I'll draw a card for you in a moment. Brigitte, anything you could say to that?
No, you've already covered it. It's life, isn't it? We so we don't always, when we incarnate on this earth, we do not remember the lessons we've signed up for. Yeah, and then we go through the motions, and it's like, well, why is this happening to me? Yeah, and that's why I say, why is this happening for me? We are given, and this is right, as Ashley has said, we are given these experiences because our guides, the universe, know that we can handle these to inspire other people. Yeah, it's how you power through it. And I think it is courageous of you to, to put this out there on social media. And like I said, it's just taking that step back and just reflecting and just breathing through it, and see whenever something happens like this, it's just sit still and think about it, rather than going really frantic. Sometimes these things happen for a reason, and we don't often understand what the reason is. But maybe 6 months down the line, we do. But can I give you a little exercise to do? And anybody that's listening can do this. This goes into my next book, by the way. It's all about the angelic realm. And there are unemployed angels, okay? You call them the unemployed angels. I call them self-employed angels. Somebody else calls them volunteer angels. It doesn't matter. Normally, we call upon the archangels like Michael, Raphael, you name them. Yeah, but the unemployed angels, they're like readily wanting to help you. And what you do is you just sit down and you have a notepad and, of course, a pen, and you sit down and you say to the unemployed angels, angels of the highest vibrational frequency and love and compassion, I ask that you assist me now and just write down. And for every, I don't care if you have 30 things, 40 things, 50 things, you just start with, I would like to have an unemployed angel help me with my health or somebody else's health, or finding a house, anything. It doesn't matter, and don't think you are not worthy of anything. Sometimes it's like, oh well, I can't ask for this, because I shouldn't be asking for this, or it's like abundance, but just ask for it. It's like I had a list of like 30 things in the last 2 weeks, and I've crossed some of these things off because they've helped me. But it's not like you sit there and it's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to write it down and then I'm going to shut it. No, it's just like every single day, and make sure that you acknowledge them, and just say what you've got on your list. And if you want a sign, I asked for a sign for something in my spiritual development. I asked to see a little lizard, forgot about it. And today I saw a little lizard. I asked for inspiration for my next book. And then boom, it hit me. It was staring me right in the face. But these are little things. And Maxine, it's all about trust and having that faith and knowing that you can turn it around. And it's okay to ask the unemployed angels for help. Try it and just see what happens. But I can tell you this, when you are open and receptive, they are really willing to help you.
I love that. I've never heard that exact term before, sort of unemployed angels, and
Yes.
it makes perfect sense. And how many of us go straight to social media and say, I've got this problem, can anyone help me? Or we go on YouTube for a tutorial, or we send out on a WhatsApp group and ask for help. So yeah, for me that is really like great plain English. Yeah, we've got these unemployed angels there waiting to help us.
Yes.
Be open to their help and ask for it. Assign them a job. They'll be there trawling the equivalent social media walls. They'll pick up on that signal, and yeah, I love it. Thank you, Brigitte. That was cool.
Yeah. And there's one other thing I will say. When you start doing that, it's like, you start to feel them all around you, because the more you write, it's like the whole room is full.
Yeah, absolutely. The card I drew as Brigitte was talking was Voyage. Okay, and now often if I was reading for a sort of client and I had maybe a communicator as well, or maybe there's a trip across the water, there's some sort of international travel perhaps, but actually in relation to the question you was asking, I do think it's about more like a voyage of discovery. I think there's an element. You think about that card there, particularly in the ancient times with the galleon and the ancient maps, people, Christopher Columbus discovering things for the first time, well, in his lifetime perhaps, because people were already living there when he founded a lot of that landmass. But actually it's about rediscovering you. It's about accessing that information. We talked about the unemployed angels. I thought, oh my gosh, this card is perfect synchronicity with that, because this is about just recognition of you. You're on that journey. Just keep going now. Take the compass into your hands. Ask it to tell you where you need to go, and then go with it. Just go with that flow. Go with that sort of motion, and perhaps you will have this voyage across the inner world to uncolonized areas of your own psyche. So that's for you, Maxine. But is there anything else you'd like to add for Maxine?
That's very funny. You talk about Columbus, and Columbus is was Saint Germain in a past. I mean, Saint Germain was Columbus in a past life. But
Oh,
it's
okay.
quite funny, because I've got meandering pathway, and you're just talking about being in the flow of things. And there's like a little wizard, which reminds me of Merlin, which is, also an aspect of Saint Germain. But it's all about being in the flow of life and becoming aware of signs, because they're actually all around you, Maxine. And it's about, I don't know, okay, how they're putting it. Um, that is almost like rebirthing. but it's like you know, nature goes in cycles and we go in cycles. That is life. But it's all about rebirthing and rebirthing of yourself and shedding layers as you walk along in this life. But truly, it's believing in the magic of life and knowing that whatever you put in your mind, you can weave that into existence.
Fab. Thank you, Brigitte. And thank you, Maxime, for that question.
Mm.
We won't duck in any of the difficult ones, and that for me was a difficult one because I deeply, the spiritual sort of something really wanted to give you something uplifting. But thank you for working with us. Lisa asked the next question, and she says, "What does it mean when I've been watching people pass away since I was 16? I've held hands with a dozen people I loved while they passed. Is there a reason for this?"
Mm.
I believe that the likelihood is, Lisa, that that you were able to give them that comfort that they needed, and that you were in that place. Often, when I have spiritual communicators come to me and I'm reading for a client, they'll talk about the fact that they wait for people to leave. They don't want to pass in front of others. Other people, want everyone in the world to be there for them to do it. But often with our loved ones, when you see someone that is unwell, actually, even if you're not sort of trained as a healer, you end up sending this signal that you want them to get better. And actually, you don't always see getting better as transition to the afterlife. And for me, as a newly ordained minister of religion, it's been one of the hardest things I've had to sort of comprehend is that actually, when someone's body is no longer able to support that personality, the transition to the next life is the best thing for them, and actually they're going
Yeah.
to be out of that pain. And that's quite hard because often when your loved one's dying, you ring up and you're like, "Oh, I need healing, that they're in hospital, I need them out of the hospital." And I think that even if you step outside of our religion, you pick a faith like Catholicism, where popes have been of very old age, actually there's probably thousands, if not millions, of Catholics all praying for the Pope to get better, as opposed to pass over. And I think that sometimes that may describe why people end up staying in that sort of limbo condition, or they're dying for a sort of longer period of time. Other times, and I think it's possible, we talk about biblical times, we talk about stories of Jesus on the cross. I think there are opportunities for people to transition quicker. The body is on its sort of way out, and people can help pass in sort of less pain, or other people more at peace can go to sort of sleep. So yeah, back to your question, Lisa. I think that the likelihood is that they needed that sort of comfort that you were able to give them, and they felt safe to be able to do that. It's an incredible thing. I remember as a young boy, my great grandmother passing away in the hospital, and my dad being in the room with her and talking about the lights, filling the room, and how he said to her, "It's okay, look, yeah, that's your husband, you can go with him," and how he sort of talked to her without using his voice, almost telepathically, because she was less reliant on her ears and the sort of voice box, and she was able to sort of just leave her body and go to it. And I always, I was very young, probably about the same size of Ethan, so maybe about 8 or 9. I remember thinking, well, why don't you just say, stay here, get out of the bed? And he's like, you've got to understand that, she'd got to a very old age, and her body was no longer able to recover from the trauma it was going for. So, think about that now, both as a sort of as a spiritual minister, as a sort of understand that concept of healing, and actually holding hands, letting people know that you're there, that it's okay. You've been able to help them make that transition. So I think that the likelihood is you've given them comfort, you've given them sort of safety and space to do that. Sort of 16 could be significant with a new awakening. We talk about the different seasons we all go through. I think that when you first incarnate, you've just come from that place I call heaven. I think you're quite attuned, and then you spend a lot of your time learning to only focus on the things you can see as a human being sort of on earth. But actually, as a teenager, for me, it was around a time that I started becoming a lot more aware again about certain things. And the hormones are changing in your body, and you're growing, and actually you just might become more attuned and more aware, and that you've got that desire to sort of want to be there and to help. The other thing is that sadly, the older we get, the more people we know that get older, and actually with that increases the likelihood. So some of it could be sort of more common sense, and obviously always look for a common sense sort of plain English answer first, and then look for the sort of spiritual understanding there. But no doubt, Lisa, you've given enormous value to the people
Mm.
that have been there in that sort of safe space. But Gita, what do you think?
No, I totally agree with you. I think that is a beautiful thing, and I think that's they felt comfortable with you holding their hands, to transcend into back into their spiritual form. I will add this to it. I mean, I've lost a lot of people as well. But they're never, I mean, their physical garments just worn out, but their spirit lives on forever. And I think we forget, and this was done in Atlantean times. They grieved for a little bit, but they understood that the soul graduated. And for the soul, it's a graduation party, so to speak. For the ones left on Earth, it feels very different. And yet the soul wants those left here on Earth to celebrate them. But I think sometimes it just takes a little bit of time.
That's nice. Thank you, Brigitte. Lisa, the card I drew for you was the Tower card. Here it is. There we go. Try and get it right. And this, for me, this sort of powerful tower, there it is, standing on a hillside without a moat or visible door, but proud, stern, and unyielding. And this symbol represents achievements gained in the face of adversity, and it reflects sometimes arrogant consciousness mind repeating the unconscious mind beneath. And we think about what we were just sort of just talking about, and I think there's an element of like, regardless of the challenges that this life has thrown you at, you've been able to overcome and adapt. You've been able to innovate and do things differently. I often see this card as well as about the element to sort of see the big picture, because there you are in a tower on a hill. So you're elevated. You can see the bigger picture. You can see perhaps risks and threats. And if you've gone through a period of trauma, it's really important that you can, you had your head on swivel, you can look around. But while you're there, I'd say you can also see with risk, you can see opportunities. You can see all the opportunities around you. And let's explore the art of what's possible together. So thank you, Lisa. That card was for you. You've just shared that your mum cried a tear and then passed when I
Mm.
told her it was okay. How powerful. And Lisa, thank you for sharing that with you, because that would have been an incredible burden. And actually, lots of people, they feel that they've got to be here, that they've got to get out of that bed and walk and be around. And just taking that burden off their shoulders and carrying it for them and saying it's going to be okay. Absolutely incredible.
Mm.
So well done. They talk about love being unconditional, and how do you show that? You show it through service and deeds, and that was a beautiful
Yep.
thing. Anything else you wanted to add for Lisa?
It's funny because I have the spirit guardian of autumn, and again, it's all about letting go. So very interesting that you got the tower. So in the next couple of months, it's all about letting certain things go, whether it's experiences or people, to allow for new things to come in. And that's the thing with the tower, by the way. I see that as something positive, because the tower, falls down, and we rise from the ashes, we rebirth into a more authentic version of who it's like who we most authentically are. And we keep progressing and developing, and we keep shedding the layers, and that is just the beauty of life.
Thank you for asking us that question, Lisa. And the next question just comes in from Judith. I think this is a great one for Brigitte to jump straight into, and it'd be an educational opportunity for me, because the question is about the differences in India in practices in spirituality to us in the West. Is their awareness more enlightened? So I'd be fascinated to know a little bit about this. I'm blessed to have clients from all over the world come for readings, and I've got a client that I met in the UK that lives in India. And we've had some fascinating conversations about where his core sort of faith, belief, and culture systems meet mine, and how we sort of meet in the middle to practice sort of mediumship. So, yeah, Brigitte, I'd love to know, what can you tell us about the differences in India, particularly in relation to practices in spirituality to us in the West, and anything about awareness? Is it more enlightened in India?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the short answer is yes. Um, but you have to, okay, so Judith, when I channel, for instance, right? And I mean, I do talk about the practices in India. Um, but when I channel, for instance, when I channel Krishna, I know he's Arthurian. Yeah. Um, so that already throws a lot. I mean, and when I Trish, well, there's Kali Ma, she's Arthurian as well. And then there are many others like Hanuman, and they believe in certain deities in different ways. But they have different practices. They also have, of course, different religions, but people are more enlightened in a way. They have far more faith and belief, but then they they lead completely different lives. And what I've seen in India when I was out there, they appreciate every little thing that they have. They could be living. I mean, I've seen children working, they were 7 years old, 8 years old, which broke my heart. But when it comes to spirituality, yeah, they're far more advanced. They're far more in tune with themselves. Whereas we deviate from our own awareness. And that's only because we live in a society that has been created. I call it artificially creative. If you want to call it the Matrix, that is fine. Um, that's why we
We
live
can't do
in.
that. We'll have to pay Hollywood.
That's like, I always say terra means earth, and that's why we live in this terrarium. So it's really finding our way. And it's like we allow ourselves to be lived rather than actually living life and finding that joy within. And that is something in India. It's all about something that I learned from my time there. It's finding that joy and cultivating that joy within and appreciating what we have in life and appreciating every single day. And we don't really do that. We take life so much for granted. Yeah, absolutely, Judith, living in gratitude and in appreciation. And we don't really do that here. People are far more in tune with themselves and they work with one another. Um, and we don't really do that here. It's all about me, rather than we. That is just a truth. We are so absorbed in our phones. I mean, when we go to restaurants, what have we got sitting next to us? Our phone. Yeah, it's our constant companion. I do not understand that. I don't live in that reality, but I see it. Um, and when I was out there, it was like, I'm sorry, no phones. You can't at the ashram, it was no phones. I just think people they're more driven, um, but they're so much more in touch with themselves and they still live from the heart. And that is so important. We've forgotten how to live from our heart space. Yeah, and like the 1980s was very, very different. And we could go knocking on someone's door. We still had the landlines, and life was very, very different to what it is now. But as I always say, yeah, absolutely, we can learn from our fellow human beings, and that's what it's all about. It's about inspiring one another, empowering one another. We are all reflections of one another. We are teachers, and we're here to walk one another home to the light and love of ourselves. That's the key thing. It's not about the ego. It's not like I'm better than that you are. You know what? You've got this and I've got that, and that's what social media is all about. It's just, oh, but you have to live a certain way. No, you don't. You don't. You just have to be happy with who you are inside. And each and every one of you that's listening and everyone out there is a beautiful human being. Yeah. We're all beautiful lights. We're just conditioned by our mind. It's our mind that muddies the waters. And that's the key thing. It's about our experiences and evolving from them and learning from them and just shedding those layers and, kicking our ego to the curb. And we live in this world of duality. And you see that more in the West than in the East.
Lovely. That was really, really nice answer. And I said it would be education. It was for me. The card I drew for you, Judith, was this one here. It's the message in the bottle, like catch of the day. The fisherman's been out, and actually within the catch, he's found a message in a bottle. It's not a language that he understands or that he can can read, but it's important. And often symbolize this card as actually is like, get ready, stand by, incoming, message about to receive you. It could be by letter, it could be an email, it could be a text message, it could be something you receive within your mind's eye. But I often find this card as like sort of a standby. If you're in a green light, go into amber, because red, you're going to have to stop, pay attention, and you're going to have to read the important sort of contents of this letter. The message is coming your way. So that was for you, Brigitte. Anything else you wanted to add for Judith?
Very funny. I've got the forest temple, and it's actually so there is a lot of healing going on around you, but it's not that. When we talk about enlightenment, it's listening to the messages, and it's becoming more aware of ourselves. But there's also an element here of, funnily enough, cultivating that joy within and finding joy in everything that you do. Spark, I got the word spark. I don't know if that means sparks of inspiration, but that's what I'm getting. And where there are, they call it light bulb moments. But I think if there's something that just plops in your head, then take action on that, or just write it down.
Cracking. Thank you, Brigitte, and thank you, Judith, for asking that question. So last 10 minutes or so, folks, to get your last few questions in. You can find me on my socials at Ash Robinson Medium. Do head over to SPTV fan page for those of you on Facebook as well to engage with other sort of like-minded people. But beware. There are people out there looking to fish for your information. So there was the fisherman's catch of the day. But beware of fishers. Always have your guard up. Remember that SPTV will never create a profile, contact you, and none of the hosts or mediums will write to you directly offering to do private readings for a fee. So just beware. We are teaching you to be cautious. Right. Marcel Higgins says, hi, do you have any advice about protection, as I have nasty neighbours projecting lots of negativity and I'm really positive? Well, that is the best defense, is often a good offense. And if you're offensive, a positive one of love and light, then absolutely, Marcel, that's definitely the right things to better do. In my work as a minister, I often get invited to come to people's homes, sometimes because they think there could be poltergeist activity or other paranormal things that they want investigated. Sometimes we do what we call house blessing. Sometimes we do a house clearance. Most recently, I had an opportunity to actually do a bit of what I refer to as rescue work. It's in the grounds of a very old site where people were almost sort of trapped in limbo. The personality was halfway out of the body because the body had given up, but they're almost trapped in what people might describe as a limbo, a sort of fourth dimension, before a proper transition to that place I call heaven, and perhaps what I might call the fifth dimension. And actually, a lot of it is just about explaining to them that's okay. After I'd done that and it cleared all that activity, it was like switching on a lighthouse in what was a dark place, and there was all sorts of strange goings on in and around the property. And actually we went back with three of us, did a bit more of an investigation, and realized that the word had got out. Old Frank's moved on, he's finally got out of limbo. Let's go to where he was, because that worked. And actually, we had to sort of go down there and put a lot of protection around the home, and just sort of say to people, look, you don't live here anymore. Stop disturbing the people that are living here. And actually, just communicating in plain English is often a fantastic protection, because we're really powerful. And as human beings, like planet Earth, like it's our experience. And actually, if we want to be guided and inspired, we can be, but we're more powerful than anything from, well, I would say almost always more powerful than anything else which could be conjured or otherwise sort of uninvited. Now, human beings can create negativity, they can create positivity, and it's like sponges. That negativity can stick around for a long time. In that old site, a lot of the negativity wasn't from the spirit world or the fourth dimension. It was from people living their lives in a bad sort of way. And in some of the sort of protection, I always think about what works for you in sort of plain English. So one of the things I like to do, and you can all do this at home, is to imagine like an oyster shell. You know, like the hinge on sort of one side. And that was the best I could do of an oyster shell. But imagine that you, your life, your home is at the center of that pearl, and at the hinge, that's where you sort of put in the protection. Now, the reason we use the shell is because we want it open. We want to get in and out of our home. We want people with invitation to come in and out of our home. But the idea is we can open and close it as we see fit. And the hard sort of bottom and shell is saying we are well protected. We can close ourselves down and nothing will get through, like a force field. If you're into sci-fi, Marcel, you might have seen Star Trek or Star Wars, you know, raise the shields, the idea of force fields. If you can sort of visualize that in your brain, shields to fall, boom, energy field comes up and you are very well protected. If you like my medieval deck, castle wall, right? 150-foot wall, or we've got the Great Wall of China, or we've got a big trench. Whatever you can see in your mind's eye that you associate with protection, barbed wire and big fences or walls, whatever it is, but use that plain English. The other really important thing, particularly when it's about negativity, is you don't want to be a sponge, you want to be a reflector. So something metallic like a mirror. So you can imagine that the house is surrounded by mirrors. Okay, and Baden-Powell, Lord Baden-Powell, who went on to found scouting, was often famed for what he used to refer to as the crafty tricks of war. And Lord Baden-Powell had also influenced the enemy several times that they were outnumbered 3 or 4 to 1 by hanging things like knives and forks and spoons and metallic hats and stuff just on sticks to confuse the enemy into thinking there were more soldiers there. But actually reflecting is a really good way, sort of saying anything that comes your way, boom, it's coming straight back at you. People talk about the turner be turned. Anyone that's trying to turn my day into a bad day, that's going to be bounced back as well. So because of bouncing, you think bouncy castles or pillows or anything else which is going to cushion, soften, damper. Anything that works for you in plain English. You yourself can protect yourself. You can dress yourself up as a warrior princess. You can put on a beekeeper's suit or surgical gloves, whatever you, again, you see as personal protective equipment within your mind's eye. I'm not encouraging you to get into cosplay and buy a load of this stuff. You can all do it within your mind's eye, Marcel. And there's just a couple of hopefully practical tips that we can all have a practice at protecting ourselves, grounding ourselves. Birgitte, any sort of, I mean, I did quite a lot of plain English interpretation there. Anything a bit more symbolic that you would like to share?
Can I just say, you talked about the wolf, right? You don't
Me?
mention the wolf? Yeah. Did
I
you
can't
mention the
remember.
wolf?
I
Yeah,
don't remember 90% of the stuff I
I
say.
think you did, because it's really funny, Marcel, because I just picked a card, but
The wolf
remember
at the door.
you have a wolf spirit with you. So use the wolf spirit. It's a white wolf actually. And it's got 2 mates with him. So use that. There is Ashley's mentioned everything. The other thing I can only add to that, I'm not sure if you heard it when I was discussing it earlier about asking the unemployed angels for help, but you can ask them to help you with not casting out your noisy neighbors, but to do something about your noisy neighbors, and just keep asking them every day and just write it down. And remember to always ask the angels of the highest frequency and vibration of love and compassion, and just say exactly to them what it is that you want, and they will put a mountain in between, or protect you. But you can use any of the techniques that Ash advised of earlier.
Right, and the card I drew for you is peace. May you find some peace. And this is a beautiful card. I love it. I love the beautiful light that's coming through. You've got that fantastic stained glass. It's flooded with light shining into what I imagine as some sort of cathedral or sort of a palace. And this is all about your inner peace. It's about reconciliation. It's the religious element, perhaps, of our hearts. We talk about faith and belief systems, but I want to talk about you finding some peace and resolution there, Marcel. And Birgitte, anything else you'd like to add in closing for Marcel?
No, no, sorry, it's just something that they said. It's they call it freezing the noise.
Freeze the
And that's
noise.
basically what they're saying, freezing the noise. However that's going to work, however you're going to do it, something will happen.
Great, and good bit of advice and advice there for all of you to take. And just like that, an hour has flashed by, folks. has gone really, really quick. We're grateful for your engagement with us online on Facebook and YouTube. We're really grateful for Richard and SPTV for giving us this opportunity to connect. If I haven't been able to get to your questions tonight, I do apologise. If you head over to at Ash Robinson Medium, you can always send me a direct message, and I will eventually get right. I do have a young family and a busy day job, so I won't do it immediately. But if you send me any questions you need an answer for, I will get back to you at some point. So please do leave that for me, or head over to the SPTV fan page, and perhaps members of our community and congregation will ask for that. I know some of you are asking for specific messages from communicators, and I would say 9 times out of 10 as a spiritualist medium, I'm not a DJ. I can't take requests. I can't bring forward that communicate you want to talk to. And most mediums work in that way. But rest assured that those communicators are with you. And you have the opportunity to let them know anything that you're thinking or feeling, that they'll be in that place that I call heaven. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Facebookers and YouTubers alike, thank you for being with us tonight. Pagita, thank you for being my very special guest on Being Spiritual tonight. It's been lovely to have you here. Hopefully you'll come back again soon.
Likewise, I've enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. Can I say one more thing very, 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 very quickly? If before you go to sleep and you're like, you know what, I'd like to connect with a loved one in my dreams, can you please send me a message? See what happens.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Absolutely. I think in that sleep state, you can definitely bring close ones too. So yeah, good bit of practical advice. Lots of hopefully tips and tricks for you to play with, and sort of tools at home, folks. It's 8 o'clock on the 3rd of September. Thank you for joining us on Being Spiritual. I've been your host, Ashley Robinson. Good night and God bless.